Welcome back, everybody. This is Mrs. Venti. This is the grade 10 class for pure mathematics. Today we're going to look at exercise 7, part 2. Specifically, we're going to do questions 11 up until 20. Let's get started. Question 11 says 4x squared minus 3x minus 2y in brackets squared. Now, the first thing that I want you to notice is that we've got a square on the 4x. That's a square and that's a square. And then this entire bracket is squared. So in essence, what we have here is a squared minus b squared. And notice that we've got a minus sign in the middle between the two. So what we have is a difference of squares. Difference refers to the minus sign. That is our difference. And we've got two squares, so we've got a difference of squares. How do we solve a difference of squares? The difference of squares gives us two brackets. In the two brackets, we've got a plus and we've got a minus, and then it's the square root of the first number, which gives us a, and the square root of the second number, which gives us b. Now let's do that, but using the numbers that are actually given in the question. The square root of 4x squared is going to give me 2x. And I'm going to say minus. Now the square root of this bracket is going to be everything inside the bracket, right, without the square sign. So 3x minus 2y. That's going to be the first bracket. Then our second bracket is going to be 2x plus, because we said minus and plus. That's how we do difference of squares. And then we have 3x minus 2y. Everything inside of the bracket. Now we are going to look at like terms. So 2x and 3x go together. 2x and 3x go together. So 2x minus 3x gives me minus x minus 2y in my first bracket. And in my second bracket, I have got 2x plus 3x. That gives me 5x minus 2y in my second bracket. And that is my final answer. Question 12, 9x squared, open bracket, 2a minus b, close bracket, minus 16, open bracket, 2a minus b. So what we're going to do here is look for our common factor. Immediately you can see that our 2a minus b is a common factor. So I'm taking that out. So this is equal to 2a minus b. That's the first thing I'm taking out. What is going to remain is going to be 9x squared minus 16. That is what is left. Right. Next up, we are going to look for difference of squares. So I can see my minus sign is over here. This is a square. This is a square. That's a square. I've got a difference of squares. My first bracket, 2a minus b, stays the same. Then my second bracket is going to become two brackets. One is plus, one is minus. My 9x squared becomes 3x in both sides. And my 16 becomes 4 on both sides. And that is my final answer. Question 13 is going to be similar to question 12. You can see that the yellow exists on both. I've repeated the yellow, but the difference here is this is a minus 3b and this is 3b minus a. Another way of writing this would have been minus a plus 3b. It's not identical. The difference there is that our sign is a problem, right? Where I have a positive a, I've got a negative a. We have a negative b, I've got a positive b. So I want to change the sign. So let's start by changing the sign. So this, I'm going to keep everything the same. 25a squared. A minus 3b, I'm going to keep that one. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to multiply this by minus 1. Okay, so I'm going to take this plus is actually minus times minus. I'm going to take one of the minuses and I'm going to multiply it in. So a minus stays on the outside. This plus 9 becomes minus 9. And what happens inside my bracket, now I'm going to use the second one because it's already in the order that I want. So minus a becomes positive a that becomes a plus a, and then plus 3b becomes minus 3b. And all of a sudden this and this is identical. That's exactly what I want. So notice the minus sign is different. That changed, and that changed, and that changed. Okay, now we're going to do our next step. Our first step was to change the sign to get like a common factor. Now I'm going to take out my common factor. So I've got a minus 3b on the outside. So what do I have on the inside? On the inside, I'm going to have my 25a squared. Then I've got this minus from the 9, right? And I've got 9 on the other side. Okay, so my first bracket, a minus 3b, is as simple as it gets. My second bracket is a difference of squares. So I am going to factorize my difference of squares by getting two brackets. And each bracket is going to have a plus and a minus. And then square root of 25a squared is 5a on both sides. And the square root of 9 is 3 on both sides. And that there is my final answer. Okay, question 14 is different. Now, remember we first want to take out a common factor. When we are working with fractions, we are going to take out the fraction in order to simplify life. So if I want to take out 1 over 3, that means I'm going to have 1 over 3 multiplied by whatever is left. So my first one is going to be x squared. That makes sense. Minus, makes sense. Now, how do I find the last term? Now, basically what we are doing is we're saying 1 over 3 multiplied by an unknown number needs to give us 3 as an answer. This 3, right? So 1 over 3 times what is equal to 3. Remember, 1 over 3 is division. So what we're saying is what divided by 3 is equal to 3. And in order for us to get that answer, you are going to take the denominator and you're going to take this 3 and you are going to multiply them with each other. That gives us that answer. So what that means is we are going to say what is equal to 3 times 3. And the answer is 9, obviously. So when we take 1 over 3 out of the bracket, we have got 9 over there. All right, do we have a difference of squares? Yes, there's our minus sign. We've got x squared and 9 is a square as well. So this is going to be equal to, we're keeping our 1 over 3 on the outside. And then our difference of squares is two brackets. One is positive, one is negative. We've got x on both sides and 3 on both sides. And that's your final answer. Question 15. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to try and take out 1 over 2. That's what we want to take out. So our bracket is going to be what's left. So what's left over here, we've got a squared. That makes sense. Minus something b to the power of 6. Now what do we do about that 8? So again, what did we do in our previous step? We said the denominator multiplied by the answer. In essence, we said the denominator here multiplied by that 3 over there. Those two multiplied gives me that. So if we do the same thing over here and we say this denominator is 2 and this number here is 8. So what we're going to say is our unknown number is going to be equal to 2 times 8. 2 times 8 is 16. So we now have a difference of squares because we have a minus there. A squared is a square. 16b to the power of 6 is a square as well. So 1 over 2 stays the same. And our brackets are two brackets. One is positive, one is negative. A squared becomes a and a. Now 16 becomes 4 and 4. And b to the power of 6 becomes b to the power of 3. and b to the power of 3. And that, dear folks, is your final answer. Question 16. Okay, so we've got 4, 2a minus 1 squared minus 36, a minus 3 squared. So what are we going to do? So, because we're factorizing, the first thing we're going to do is take out the common factor. Notice that 4 and 36 are written in pink. So I'm going to take 4 out. Okay, so what I have left is going to be a big bracket. I've got 2a minus 1 squared minus, so if I take 4 out of 36, what I have is 4 times 9 is equal to 36. So this is 9. And then I have a minus 3 squared. And that is a big bracket. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I am looking at a difference of squares. Notice that this here, the whole bracket, could be x squared. And then over here, this whole bracket could be y squared. Everything inside is 1. So it could technically be x squared minus 9y squared. Difference of squares. Can you see that? So instead of expanding the brackets inside, I'm just going to treat the brackets as one term or one element. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So the 4 stays outside. And then I've got 2 brackets, right? My 2 brackets are going to have a plus and a minus in each. 1 plus, 1 minus. So the square root of this bracket is going to be the bracket 2a minus 1 without the square. Then we're going to do the 9. The square root of 9 is 3. And the square root of the second bracket, again, is going to be a minus 3. And we keep the brackets there because we need to multiply that 9 in. Okay. Now you're going to repeat that on the second side. So we've got 2a minus 1, and I'm just looking here and copying it over, minus 3, and my grand bracket is going to be a minus 3. So my next step, because remember, we want it as simple as possible, and I've got a's there and a's there, so I want to simplify, which means I am going to multiply this section out. I'm going to multiply that section out. So everything else stays the same. So my first bracket, I have 3 times a becomes 3a, and 3 times minus 3 becomes minus 9. Second bracket, 3 times a is 3a, 3 times minus 3 is minus 9. Right, now I can do like terms. I know in my first bracket, 2a goes with 3a. I know in my first bracket, minus 1 goes with minus 9. I know in my second bracket, 2a goes with 3a. I know in my second bracket, minus 1 goes with minus 9. So this becomes 4. My first bracket is going to be 2a plus 3a gives me, okay, we can write in blue, 2a plus 3a gives me 5a. Minus 1 minus 9 is minus 10. Second bracket, 2a minus 3a is minus 1a. Minus 1 minus 9 is minus 10. And that, dear folks, is your final answer. As simple as it's going to get. All right, exercise 17. 2x to the power of 8 minus 2y to the power of 4. My common factor is going to be the number 2. So I'm going to say I'm taking 2 out. So what I have left is going to be x8 minus y4. Now I've got a difference of squares because there's my difference, the minus sign. And then this 8 is a multiple of 2 and the 4 is a multiple of 2. So what we're going to do is this becomes 2, and I've got 2 brackets for my difference of squares. One is plus, one is minus. My x becomes x4 because we're going to say x to the power of 8 split into 2 and y to the power of 4 split into 2. So y2, y2. And that's not your final answer. Okay, so 2 is as simple as it gets. 2 is as simple as it gets. That's as simple as it gets. But my last bracket is a difference of squares because I have a difference and I've got a square and I've got a square. So now I'm going to write this is equal to 2 and I've got x4 plus y squared. That stays the same. Now I'm going to do this bracket as a difference of squares. So I've got two brackets and one is plus and one is minus. X4 becomes x2 on both sides. Y2 becomes y1 on both sides. And finally, that is your final answer. Question 18, we want to take out 1 over 5. So 1 over 5 is what we're going to take out. I notice that I have x to the power of 3 and x to the power of 1. So I can take out x to the power of 1. Y to the power of 1, y to the power of 3, I can take out y to the power of 1. So what I'm left with is going to be x squared minus... Okay, so do you remember how we did taking out a fraction? We said that a number, an unknown number, over the fraction 5 is going to be equal to this known number, which is 20. So we are going to multiply these two with each other. So in essence, we're going to say the unknown number is equal to 20 multiplied by 5. So this 20 becomes 100. And x is taken out, y to the power of 2. That is our difference of squares bracket. Okay, so our factor stays the same, 1 over 5 xy. And then our two brackets are going to have a plus and a minus. X squared becomes x. 100, the square root of 100 is 10. Square root of y squared is y. Okay, and that is your final answer. Question 19. We can automatically see by the color that we've got a common factor. So I'm going to take out 2p plus 3. And we're never going to touch that again. And then my second bracket is going to be 9m squared minus 4. Now we know that that second bracket is a difference of squared. So we're going to keep 2p plus 3. And our second bracket, difference of squares, goes into two brackets. One's plus, one's minus. 9m squared becomes 3m, and 4 becomes 2. That's done. Last one for today, question 20. Okay, so this is interesting because that green and the yellow look similar. They look like something that can make sense. So let's start out by working on the green. Can we make it k minus m instead of m minus k? Yes, we can. By taking this minus sign and multiplying it in, then we'll be able to do that. Okay, so if I say minus times plus m, that becomes minus m. And if I say minus times minus k, that becomes plus k. So I'm writing it so that it's k minus m, k minus m. Yes, that's what I want. Now that I've multiplied that minus in, this here becomes plus. So notice that the sign changes. This changes to plus, this changes to minus, this changes to plus. So all three signs must change. Right. So now I've got that. I'm going to work on my yellow bracket next, and I'm going to work on the difference of squares. So I'm keeping my 3k. My difference of squares is going to be two brackets, and one is positive and one is negative. And that is going to be k plus m, k minus m. Next, I'm going to say plus 3k, and I've got k minus m. Alrighty, now I can look for common factors, and I can see that I've got 3k and I've got 3k, so that's one common factor. But I also have another common factor, and this is k minus m and k minus m. So I am going to take both common factors out. I'm taking out 3k and I'm taking out k minus m. K minus m. Those are the ones I am taking out of the bracket. So what do I have left? I have left this bracket, which is going to be k plus m. And notice that I took out both of these here. So what do I have left on that side? Plus 1. That's what I have left on that. And that is your final answer. Right, I hope this made sense to you. Please like and subscribe. Press on the bell button so that you can get notifications. And I wish you all the best. Thank you. Bye-bye.